Good morning, YouTube. LA Prepper here with I'm gonna try to do some kind of get into some basics. A lot of my subscribers probably have kind of been into prepping for a little bit, and that's great. We can all learn from each other. But I might have some new subscribers or people just hitting a video that are brand new, so I'm gonna try to make some things focused towards the brand new prepper. So this video is called, some 5 things for the new prepper. 5 things to kind of think about. 5 things to focus on. There's so much, there's so many things you could spend your time and energy on in prepping that I'm going to try to break it down into 5 simple things that you can focus on to get you started. So number 1, water. Most important element. Not having water will make it very difficult to stay alive, and having water, if that's all you have, will help extend your ability to keep yourself alive, even if you don't have food. So, there are, a lot of people, as they develop their preps, get into these 5-gallon containers and, bigger water containers. But if you're living in an apartment, or maybe you're living at your folks' house or something, or you have roommates or whatever your situation, especially your not just your storage situation but your financial situation, those things can cost like 10 15 bucks, even $8. So if you go to the dollar store, you can get a gallon of water for $1. So that's 5 gallons of water for $5. So granted, you can go get a 5-gallon container for maybe $10 15 or something, and then pay a quarter a gallon to fill it, so you're in it for $1 extra, or sorry, 25, yeah, $1.25 extra for 5 gallons. But the thing is, then you're paying 11, 12, 13, $14 for something that could have cost $5. And I like the gallon containers, honestly, because they're smaller. They fit better into cabinets. I put some gallons into one of my cabinets that I had to kind of fold them up back in there, and not all 5-gallon containers are going to fit nicely in kind of small cabinet shelves. A gallon a day is really, it might be enough to quote unquote survive on, but if you're actually trying to live and flush your toilet and do laundry and do dishes, things like cook, a gallon per day is really not sufficient. You really need to be thinking about a couple gallons a day. So if you want to have a goal of 30 days of water, that's going to be 60 gallons, and you can do the math from there. Second thing to focus on, food, obviously. More than anything, food and water is the first thing that all preppers kind of focus on, because, that's what we need to survive. So make sure that you have, make sure it'll store for a while. It doesn't have to be, dehydrated 20-year storage, even if it stores for a year. Even stuff like brown rice, if you just store it in the factory packaging, might have a year or two expiration on it. So it doesn't have to be like 5, 10-year stuff. It could be stuff that stores for a year, or even 6 months or something, if your peanut butter is only good for 6 months or a year. And peanut butter, I think, lasts for like a year, but check the dates on your products. So make sure you have a good diversity: carbs, protein, veggies, fruits. One real good recommendation a lot of preppers make is, when you're looking at canned stuff, get some things that have some good amount of liquid in them. Like fruit cocktail, canned peaches, like canned corn and things like that have an amount of liquid in them as well. Because if you just get 60 days worth of food of canned tuna, it's kind of dry. Excuse me. So, get your food, get your water. Third thing, I'll say first aid. If hospital service is not necessarily guaranteed, and even if it is, it might be impacted, a little bit of first aid is going to go a long way. Even things like just stopping bleeding, trying to prevent infection, keeping wounds clean, having some basic over-the-counter medications. I'm not going to go into like a first aid video, but having things like gauze, tape, disinfectant, water bottle, gloves, masks, ace bandages, materials to make splints, things like tourniquets, hemostatic agents, medical scissors. There's a variety of, basic first aid things. Check out, there's a bunch, I don't have a good video on first aid right now, but there's a bunch of people out there that have, check out Skinny Medic has some great videos. I'll give him a quick shout out. So first aid, number three thing. Doesn't have to be a ton of stuff. You don't have to go buy $60, $100 first aid kit. Just get some basic stuff. Maybe I'll do a quick first aid video and try to help you out with that. Uh, Fourth thing is a little bit of self-defense. A lot of preppers move towards firearms in that arena, but there are a lot of options for self-defense, from mace to things like tasers, uh, bow and arrows. To some extent, if you're trying to get Hunger Games, more primitive weapons like spears and clubs. And I don't really want to get into like every tool you could use as a weapon, because I don't want that video. I don't want my videos to have a spin like that. So I'll just say that something related to self-defense. It even could include, martial arts training, which is a completely legitimate form of self-defense. But just consider that in a difficult situation where you have things like gun stores having 100 guns stolen, do you want to have mace or a taser or something like that when you have criminals running around that have stolen guns? So I leave what caliber, pun intended, of self-defense that you end up choosing up to you. But just something to kind of think about. Personal security and keeping yourself and your family, and even your neighborhood, your neighbors safe is something that, is going to be up to all of us when things get difficult, if they ever get difficult. And last but not least, a bug out bag. Whether or not to bug in or bug out is a whole big conversation. It really depends on your situation, not just your living situation, but what the more local situation is. So there's a lot of things you can put into a bug out bag. I'm going to give you a list that Dave Canterbury, who's kind of a big prepper survival guy, has. And this list is not necessarily based on like the 5 most useful things to have. He kind of explains it, and I definitely agree that this is why it makes it really valuable. He explains it as these are 5 things that are sort of hard to make or craft in the wilderness. So the 5 C's are cordage, or like rope, twine, paracord, things like that. Covering, some type of tarp or tent, space blankets kind of count. Something to give you some type of shelter. Combustion, so starting fires. Multiple types is usually recommended, anywhere from matches to flint and steel, magnifying glasses, fire pistons. If you don't know what a fire piston is, look them up. They're really cool. They use compression like a diesel engine to ignite. Fourth thing is containers. Definitely get a metal container so that you can boil water. All these people buying like all these plastic water bottles. I just don't put a bunch of plastic containers in your bug out kit, because you're going to want to, a few is all right. And, maybe they're collapsible and you like them or whatever, but maybe they have a little water filter in them. But get metal containers. Aluminum's great. Cast iron, stuff like that's a little bit heavier, but a little more industrial. But probably don't want some cast iron for your bug out bag. But get some aluminum containers so that you can boil water. It's going to help you out. Cutting, fifth thing, a knife. Knife's not impossible to make in the outdoors, but a steel blade, if you're starting from scratch, is kind of a challenging thing. Anybody can grab a sharp rock or a shell and cut a piece of rope, but to make a proper knife out of a blade or a piece of steel, takes some work. So cordage, covering, combustion, containers, and cutting. Put together a little bug out bag, just a backpack. Put that stuff in it. Put a little bit of first aid in it. Maybe some self-defense that fits in it. And just have it. If you can't, putting in your car is a good idea. If you're out with your car and you go to work, that way it's always with you. Some people keep it at home. I keep it in my car because I'm always with my car. So there you have it. 5 things for the new prepper: water, food, self-defense, first aid, and a bug out bag. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think, and I'll see you next time.